One of the best parts of my job is witnessing the evolution of so many of the technologies and the brands that we have here in the 12-volt mobile electronics industry. We're talking about car audio, and today's featured brand is one that started in one category, but now has evolved into another, and with exciting products to boot. Of course, we're talking about Wavetech, and today we've got their product expert, Mike Morris, in the studio with us today to tell us about brand new product that you need to know about. This is CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM, all about Wavetech, and it starts now. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another CMA Networks brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu, and today we are diving deep on some brand new product coming to you from the people over at Wavetech. You know, that brand that's really well known for OEM integration products. Well, guess what? They are now into car audio full-fledged with a line of amplifiers which promises to be very unique and with features that you might never have seen before in the amplifier category. Now, Mike, you're joining us today. Obviously, we're going to pick your brain. What can we expect to cover on today's session?
Today, we're going to take a deep dive on our new mini series amplifiers. We have mono and 4-channel models, and there are a lot of integration features and non-integration features that people will find pretty interesting.
Amplifiers from Wavetech, imagine that. But before we get into it, a quick opportunity for our partner SiriusXM to remind you dealers out there why you should be loving it. And when we come back, mini amplifiers, courtesy of Wavetech.
Hey guys, Ricky Lima here from SiriusXM. I had a chance to speak to some dealers and ask them what they love about selling SiriusXM. Here's what they had to say.
Coast-to-coast coverage.
I love SiriusXM for commercial-free music.
It's a great add-on sale and a profit opportunity.
We love selling SiriusXM because you can listen to the same channel coast to coast.
Profitability and ease of installation. It's a no-brainer.
We love selling SiriusXM for its ease of installation, great profitability, and reliability.
People love it.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We've got Mike Morris in the studio with us. We're talking Wavetech and their brand new mini amplifier. So I guess the question that needs to be asked is, Mike, how did it go from obviously doing something so great within OEM integration space and the different type of adapters and the active LOCs that you guys have and everything else in between to coming up with a line of amplifiers? There's got to be a story here.
You know, when we introduced our LOCs, there were a lot of features that other companies weren't doing at all, and we kind of reinvigorated that category. It'd really been static for several years, and we've injected some juice into that. So we kind of thought, let's take that same philosophy. More of our customers say they want all-in-one solutions where they have their integration product and their amplifier in one piece, and we thought, who better to do an integration amplifier than the company that does integration the best?
Well, if you're going to put it that way, Mike, it certainly makes a whole lot of sense. So let's get into it. We're talking about mini amplifiers. I'm going to expect a lot of integration features because that's what you've prefaced here. What exactly is the offering overall?
You know, there are a lot of amplifier options out there. So if you're going to introduce a new line, you really need to do some things that are unique, and you need to offer solutions that maybe aren't currently being offered. The line consists of 2 4-channel models and 2 mono models, and there are a lot of really neat features, some OEM integration features, and then some really cool preamp features as well.
Well, let's get into it, Mike. I have a list of different features here that I want to ask you about, and I know each one is very important, but we want to make sure that the dealers tuning in truly understand what each of these features mean, what they do, and how does that apply in a real-world situation, starting with the auto turn-on feature.
So all of our amplifiers have our unique turn-on circuit, which allows you to do DC offset and audio detect simultaneously. Now, every amplifier out there has a DC offset and audio detect switch, usually for one or the other. But by being able to have both at the same time means our circuit's going to be more reliable and more predictable, meaning it'll work in more applications. So the installers have an easier job. They don't have to worry about whether it's going to work. And that means they can get more cars in and out of their bay because they're not spending time troubleshooting.
Efficiency is always the name of the game, Mike, so I can definitely appreciate that feature right there from installer point of view, especially. Now, moving on to our next universal feature, something called adaptive OEM loading circuit. Can you tell us what that is and what the benefits of this feature are?
All of our LOCs have loading built in and have since the very beginning of our company. We thought we could improve upon that. The way loading has always worked up to this point, the way we've done it and the way our competitors do it, is basically having a fixed load in place. And that load is a specific impedance. usually tried to match whatever the factory OEM system has. Our amplifiers have an adaptive load. So anywhere between 20 ohms and 180 ohms, the amplifier will produce or mimic what that factory system needs to see, so that you don't have to worry about whether or not you have enough resistance. Even with some products that have built-in loading, you might need to add an additional resistor pack to lower that impedance down. But with our amplifiers, you shouldn't have any application where you don't have enough load on board.
Now, we've all seen these vehicles come into the bay, and it does a curious thing. Start and stop. It's a puzzle. It's a conundrum. Does Wavetech have a solution?
So all of our amplifiers have built-in start-stop compatibility. A lot of modern vehicles will have a system where the ignition turns off at red lights in order to conserve fuel. And when that happens, if you've added aftermarket equipment to that system, when that ignition turns off, it typically turns off the aftermarket electronics as well. Our amplifiers have two things that are cool. One, has the start-stop capability built in, and two, it works down to 7 volts. So there are other amplifiers out there, not a lot, but there are a couple of other amplifier brands that are doing start-stop compatibility, but it only works down to 8.5 volts. The problem with that is the majority of the European vehicles are 7 to 7.5 volts. So our amplifier is compatible with any of those start-stop systems, where the only other ones that we're aware of would not work in those other applications.
Now, I've had a chance to see images of these amplifiers, and I've noticed that these are pretty darn compact. So I've got to wonder, based on the output there, what type of heat management do you have built into all these mini amps?
So we all know that heat is the enemy of any electronics, and especially when you're talking about an amplifier. And you need heat sink to dissipate that heat. So there's a few things that we do. The first thing is, if you hold one of our amplifiers in your hand, you'll see that it's aluminum all around, all sides. So it doesn't have a sheet metal or bottom plate that's a metal piece. It's actually aluminum heatsink on both top and bottom of the amp, so you have surface area for cooling on top and bottom and all sides. So that's one thing that we do. The other thing we do is the way we lay the components out in a very efficient design internally. Something that we have that's kind of unique to us, there are other people that do it, but nobody does it the way we're doing it. We have an active thermal management that rolls back the power output of the amplifier as the amplifier gets hot. So as an example, let's say you're on a road trip and you're rocking out and you get a phone call. Well, when you're rocking out on that trip, over the course of time, if you have thermal rollback, your amplifier is going to lower power output. Now, you probably don't notice it. It's probably imperceivable to you, but you are going to have the power lower because the amplifier gets hot and it wants to protect itself from shutting down, so it'll lower output power. Well, what our amplifier does is, let's say you get a phone call, and so there's a period of time when the amplifier is still on, but not playing music, it's just phone call. As the amplifier has time to cool off, it will raise the power back up to its normal operating power. The thing that makes ours different than other similar systems is they have to be cycled power on off for the amplifier to recover back to full power. So as an example, if the amplifier's threshold is, let's say, 140 degrees, it might have reached that threshold and cooled back down to a more usable range, but until you turn the key off, either to stop and get gas or get a snack or something and then restart the vehicle, you aren't going to go back to full power. With ours, as the amplifier cools down in real time, it will ramp the power back up to full power. So that's something that we do that's a little bit different.
Now, my final question for you, Mike, as far as these universal features are concerned, you mentioned that obviously you're going to optimize these amplifiers with the technology that you have when it comes to LOCs. That means input, high-level input, and that means high voltage acceptance ability. What type of range do these amplifiers accept when it comes to input voltage?
So we have a dual range input. Our amplifiers will accept up to 40 volts. And that's great because there are a lot of OEM systems that are approaching that number. But the problem is, if you only have one range of input, you're going to have a lot of gain in some systems, and you're going to have almost no gain in others. So we do a dual input range. We do a range up to 20 volts for factory systems and a range up to 40 volts. The reason we do that is if you have a non-dual range setup, you're going to have a situation where in one car, you're going to have the gain maxed all the way if it's a very low power output factory system. And in other vehicles, you're going to have the gain all the way down and maybe not even be able to remove it enough to lower the noise floor to a usable area. With a dual range, you actually have ideal setup for an entry-level factory system or a higher-end factory system. And of course, we have panel mount RCAs on our amplifiers, not because they are pretty, not because they look nice. We do it because we want you to plug RCAs into them as well. So these amplifiers also have the ability to accept high voltage out of aftermarket head units. So we give you a dual range for both the RCA and the speaker level input, and you have the ability to adjust that according to the source unit that you're using.
All right, so we spent the time going through in detail the universal unique features that you'll find across all these mini amplifiers, but let's get into it even deeper now. Let's start with the 4-channel, because I could imagine, I mean, the 4-channel is probably where most people are going to begin. There's 2 different models. Mike, help us understand the differences and some of the unique characteristics that these 4-channel amplifiers have.
There are 2 models in our line that are 4-channel. We have the Link 300.4 Mini and the Link 500.4 Mini. The Link 300.4 Mini is a small footprint amplifier. It's less than 6.5 inches long. It's 4.5 inches wide, and it's 1.5 inches tall. It's 50 by 4 at 4 ohms, 75 by 4 at 2 ohms, and it's bridged to 150 by 2 at 4 ohms. It's got all of the DNA that makes Wavetech that we've talked about in other videos, but the cool thing about this amplifier is it has summing capability on board. So some factory audio systems require that you combine a high frequency and a low frequency signal together to get a full range signal, because there is no full range signal present. And to do that, you would usually need a separate processor of some kind. This amplifier has that processing on board, so you can solve that problem with one component, and it's one really small component. When you step up to the 500.4 Mini, of course, you're going to get more power. It goes from 75 by 4 at 2 ohms to 125 by 4 at 2 ohms, and it bridges to 250 by 2 at 4 ohms, but you also get a better preamp. You get a 1-band parametric EQ, you get a fully adjustable subsonic filter, and you get a remote level control, so you can control the subwoofer volume from the front of the vehicle. That amplifier gives you so much more. If you're using it with a aftermarket head unit, you have the ability to take advantage of the subsonic filter and the 1-band parametric EQ. If you have an aftermarket system, that's great. If you have a factory system that requires summing or some of the other functions, you can do that. If you have a factory system that has volume dependent or speed sensitive equalization, that 1-band parametric EQ will allow you to correct that problem without any additional components.
Now, naturally, to pair these 4-channel amplifiers, we need some subwoofer power, and that means monoblocks. Again, 2 different models of monoblock amplifiers within this range.
You know, mono amplifiers are something we were really excited about. One of our first products was a standalone processor called the Bass Freak, and that was basically all of our OEM integration stuff with a really good bass preamp. We built our amplifiers around that Bass Freak preamp. So both of our mono amplifiers have 24 dB per octave crossovers, 24 dB per octave subsonic filters, and 1-band parametric EQs. That gives you so much tuning, and you won't find an amplifier preamp like this at twice the price. So we're giving you something that is a high-end feature at a really affordable price point. The first amplifier in this mono series is the Link 500.1 Mini. It's 300 by 1 at 4 ohms and 500 by 1 at 2 ohms. It's got all of our OEM loading and start-stop technology and all the other things that we've talked about before. Our other model is the Link 1000.1 Mini, and that amplifier is 600 watts by 1 at 4 ohms and 1000 watts by 1 at 2 ohms. Don't let the small footprint of either one of these amplifiers fool you. With our thermal management system and heat sink on top and bottom of the amplifier, these amplifiers will play all day, and they have a lot of headroom, both making more than 20% above rated power.
And that right there was Wavetech's Mike Morris joining us to tell us all the details about their brand new mini amplifier lineup. 4 different models, 2 4-channels, and 2 monos to seriously consider. If you want more information on these products, make sure you check out the official Wavetech website right here at the bottom of your screen. And if you happen to be a dealer tuning in from Canada, then you need to know that all things Wavetech have for a while now being distributed by our friends at Importel. I've reached out, of course, to our 12-volt Viking friend, Mr. Jaron Gelmaland. Jaron, this is a unique product. It's been a line that's done really well with Importel, especially on the OEM integration side of things. But now here we are with the product that not only satisfies the OEM integration side with high-level in and LOC, but also a phenomenal small footprint, powerful amplifier loaded with features. How have the dealers received it thus far?
Yeah, so far the dealers have had a great reception to this amp. You're essentially taking 2 very, very good products and putting them together into one. you have a great either 4-channel or monoblock amplifier without all the OEM integration stuff. So the ability to use it with aftermarket head units, different source units, you have a great amplifier. And then to add that Wavetech DNA of the line out converters with all the features to fit in these OEM systems that are becoming more and more complicated. And then you add start stop to it. And I definitely don't envy installers nowadays, but pieces like this make their job that much easier to integrate into these vehicles. It's no longer guessing, will this basic high level on this amp work for this vehicle? It gives you those options. You know it's going to work out of the box, and you know you have the adjustabilities within that amplifier, whether you need to sum the channels to get more range going to a certain speaker, to have that full range and better sound quality. This is the perfect amplifier for that. And adding that equalization on the monoblock to bring up that factory bass roll off that we've all experienced on those factory systems, I think makes this a go-to piece that everyone should have in their shop.
Now, I myself was quite curious when we were talking to the guys at Wavetech and they were coming out with these new amplifiers to wonder, at what level would they be coming into the market in? Would it be entry level? Would it be higher than that? And from what I've learned today, it seems there's a lot of high-end features built into these amplifiers, such as the active heat monitoring system and others. I'd like to hear your feedback as to where dealers should consider these products as far as the amplifiers are concerned in their range and their offering to their customers.
Yeah, definitely within the range of amplifiers. I definitely put this on the higher end range of the amplifiers. Like, we talk and focus with Wavetech on the OEM integration side and their line out converters and all the great power that has. But let's not forget that on the other side of it, Wavetech has gone through the strides to produce this great amplifier, great sounding amplifier with ample amounts of power to have 1,000 watts going to a subwoofer still out of a tiny little amplifier with active thermal management on board, panel mount RCAs, just all the stuff that goes to making a great high-end amplifier. It's all here with Wavetech.
I want to take this opportunity to thank my two guests today, both Mike Morris as well as Mr. Jaron Gelmalon from Importel, to give us all the details on these mini amplifiers from Wavetech. And here's my closing comments on this. This is a company that started with a deep understanding and engineering prowess when it came to OEM integration, understanding how to take the signal and make it work for great sound. Now what they've done is taken that incredible foundation and built a platform on amplification. Are these amplifiers small footprint? Check. Are these amplifiers high power? Also check. Do these amplifiers fit in virtually any situation that you may come across in your bay? Also check. What does this mean? This means that Wavetech has come up with a solution-based product fit for just about any application, and I certainly would encourage anybody to try them out and see for yourself if they do what Wavetech is claiming. On that note, thank you for joining us for another CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM with over 150 channels in your vehicle. Your Platinum Plan offer includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video on Demand. What you love is on now.